Go, I'll kneel, I'll pray for you. For slavery fled, our glory is dead. You shone through the foggy.
But now, as the centenary of the 1916 fast approaches, we are in a worse position than ever, because the minister has handed over this site, lock, stock and barrel, back into the hands of the developer Chartered Lands. A developer who owes 2.8 billion to the state, the highest debtor in NAMA. But the state are presenting Chartered Lands with 5 million euros of your money, of taxpayers' money, to put a museum here, which will be dwarfed by a huge shopping mall. All of the buildings in this terrace are connected to 1916. And our grandchildren here and school teachers can bring their students here and tell them of the heroic deeds that happened in this place. And we can say the following: in the toilets of Burger King, the injured James Connolly was eased through the walls of 10 Moore Street as the rebels burrowed their way through the walls of this terrace in 1916. Or they could say it was here in front of Marks and Spencer's that Nurse Elizabeth O'Farrell carried the white flag of surrender. Ladies and gentlemen, can you imagine anything as absurd as this? Could you imagine this happening to the Anne Frank House in Amsterdam? No, because a civilised state with a civilised government respects its own history. Ladies and gentlemen, this Save Moore Street campaign has always been democratic. The people of this city and the people of Ireland want this whole terrace restored and the battlefield site maintained as a historical quarter which would attract thousands of visitors to actually stand in the place where our independence was born. It makes economic sense, it makes social sense, but more importantly, it is the will and the voice of the people.
It's 5 years since the first Arms Around Moore Street protest organised by the Campaign to Preserve Moore Street on the battlefield site. And this is the 5th anniversary, and as a way of remembering the first Arms Around Moore Street protest, we're going to line the terrace today in an act of remembrance and in a way of showing that the battle to save this battlefield area, this battlefield site of enormous historical importance, continues on, despite the consent of the Minister to restore the 4 buildings that comprise the National Monument. The rest of the area remains threatened.
What consent is given? People in decision making in this country in relation to the future of Dublin, the future of the cities of this country. You may not have no respect for our history and heritage. Well, we do.
Well, no, everything is dependent on NAMA funding. So the public are expected to pay to the tune of 5 million, we're told, to restore the 4 buildings of the National Monument. So here you have a private property developer who has allowed the monument fall into disrepair and decay over the last number of years since it came in under his ownership, effectively being rewarded with public money towards its restoration. That's unacceptable. If these buildings are to be refurbished and restored with public money, the public must have a say with regard to the future of not only the buildings but what surrounds them. It's unacceptable to have a giant retail development enveloping these 4 buildings. The entire terrace is worthy of preservation, and the entire terrace must be preserved as the last stand of the provisional government in 1916.
To me, this is the most, as so many of the speakers have been saying, this is the single most important site left in relation to 1916. It's the most complete site. Most people don't realise the GPO has been completely reconstructed. Most of the other sites, Stephen's Green, has been completely re-landscaped. It's a completely different design. Very, very little of the original battle site that people fought on, that the buildings that they walked through are still in one piece. This street, you have it. Over 300 people crammed into these buildings. They were under fire from all sides. The buildings were burning. And this is where they held their last stand. As James Connolly says, it's Ireland's Alamo. And you just really, there isn't enough that you can say about Moore Street. It really is. So much of our history is contained in this little stretch of street, in these half dozen or so buildings, and it needs to be saved.
For slavery fled, our glory is dead when you shone through